major airports, including Dallas-Fort Worth and Houston's George Bush Intercontinental, over Islamic foot washing stations and prayer spaces. We'll discuss this and more of today's top headlines. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Tessa. Could a symptom many women dismiss as a gynecological issue actually be colon cancer? Dr. Stacy Norton joins us to explain the warning signs women shouldn't ignore.
Plus, can better data help prevent crime before it happens? University of Houston Downtown's new research center hopes to turn insight into action.
And as always, we want to hear from you. Give us a call or text us at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
NPR News in Washington, I'm Louise Schiavone. At least 6 people are dead from a Ukrainian rocket fired across the border into Russia. The attack is the latest in ongoing tit-for-tat strikes between the two countries using missiles and drones. From Moscow, NPR's Charles Maines has details.
It's unclear what exactly Ukraine was targeting when its rocket struck the border region of Belgorod. Russia's local acting governor only said a structure had been hit and that among the victims was a teenage boy. In addition to military installations, Ukraine has increasingly attacked Russian energy and logistics sites, soft targets that Kyiv claims are legitimate because they aid the Russian war effort and mirror Russia's own strikes on civilian infrastructure. Ukrainian drone strikes on Russia's vast oil sector in particular have caused on-again, off-again gas shortages this summer, and long lines were back at gas stations this weekend, that despite reports of the arrival of reserve fuel from India to alleviate the crisis. Charles Maines, NPR News, Moscow.
The USS Washington is on its way to the Middle East to relieve the USS Lincoln, its 5,000 sailors deployed for more than 200 days. The Lincoln has been at the center of concerns over mental health issues, as well as a lack of fresh food and supplies. From Norfolk, Virginia, reporter Steve Walsh with member station WHRO has more.
USS George Washington is now on its way to relieve USS Lincoln with their 5,000 sailors. It's hard to pinpoint when the Washington will arrive. Normally, you would expect both carriers to remain in the region for a week or so, but a Navy official who wasn't authorized to speak publicly told me that there is no standard handoff period. So the Lincoln could leave rather quickly once USS Washington arrives in the region.
Reporter Steve Walsh with member station WHRO in Norfolk. Opening statements are scheduled to begin in Las Vegas at this hour in the trial of the man accused of playing a key role in the 1996 murder of rap artist Tupac Shakur. Steve Futterman reports.
Prosecutors will accuse Dwayne Davis, a former powerful gang leader, of orchestrating the killing. He will not be accused of pulling the trigger, but rather putting together all the elements that ended with Shakur being shot. The key evidence will be Davis's own words in interviews and in a 2019 memoir, where he says he supplied the gun used in the murder and was in the car that drove up alongside Shakur. The defense is expected to claim that Davis was fabricating and embellishing. Shakur's cousin, William Lassane, does not believe the explanation.
Of course, he's going to evade accountability by saying that he embellished for the last 15 years.
Davis now also claims he wasn't even in Las Vegas the night of the killing. For NPR News, I'm Steve Futterman in Las Vegas.
On Wall Street at this hour, the Dow off 194, the Nasdaq up 27. This is NPR.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Jack Williams. Texas power grid operators say it could take months to complete a data center audit ordered by Governor Greg Abbott. As News 88.7's Natalie Weber reports, how quickly developers respond to the audit could determine how long the governor's data center moratorium will last.
Governor Abbott wants state regulators to collect information on data centers' energy and water usage. Texas Public Utility Commissioner Courtney Hodge-Altman says the length of the audit and the pause of data center approvals will depend on data center developers. Here's Hodge-Altman speaking during a meeting late last week.
You answer this audit, you provide the information, and that's when you'll know your certainty. So it's up to you to answer and do it well.
Texas energy regulators will meet again Thursday to discuss the audit. The governor's data center pause doesn't include projects that are already under construction and have been approved to join the state's main power grid. I'm Natalie Weber, News 88.7.
Harris County commissioners are gathering this hour for a special meeting to discuss assembling a new salary grievance committee. News 88.7's Sarah Gruno reports.
The Salary Grievance Committee will likely be made up of other elected county officials like the tax assessor collector, the sheriff, and the county treasurer. Some commissioners raised concerns about the committee last year after District Clerk Marilyn Burgess voted to give herself an $81,000 raise. She announced she would not seek re-election for her seat after commissioners ultimately turned down her request. Commissioners will also discuss a 2027 tax rate and budgets for certain county departments, including the Flood Control District and the Toll Road Authority. I'm Sarah Gruno, News 88.7.
In sports, the Astros dropped one to the Mariners at Dyken Park yesterday, 3-2. They have the day off today and host the Angels tomorrow night at home. Houston still holds a 2-game lead in the American League West. Houston weather, the theme is hot this week. Hot again today, the high of around 99. Mostly clear tonight. The low gets down to around 78. Then tomorrow more the same, clear skies, 99 the high. 85 at the University of Houston. I'm Jack Williams, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include DuckDuckGo, who believes AI should be optional and who've been building privacy tools for 15 years. They now offer Duck.ai, where users can chat privately with AI. Duck.ai. This is NPR.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now your hosts for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous and Tessa Barrera. And hello there. It's a happy Monday morning. It's really happy around here because for the first time in 15 weeks, I don't have to say, and in the guest host chair, I can just say, good morning, Tessa.
Hey, good morning, Ernie. It feels good to be here. Permanently.
You have no idea how good it feels to finally know I have got you a dancing partner and we're in step, and I'm so thrilled you've joined us. Thank you for picking us.
Oh my gosh, you don't have to thank me. I'm watching our promo video. I'm trying not to be distracted. I see that there's a lot of YouTubers on, people watching, people streaming. We've located my mother,
Your mother was MIA this morning for a little bit.
Yes, my own mom, okay?
She got things to do.
Right. No,
Yeah.
it was a big day for me. I listened to what is the Rocky song on the way in?
Yeah.
Eye of the Tiger. Eye of the Tiger. I listened to that on the way in. I had an energy drink. I mean, it is first day of school vibes big time
You were
around
on
here.
Friday, and all I could say, and I don't think you had your energy drink, and I thought after the 10 minutes, I was like, oh my God, this is exhausting. You bring so much energy, and I am so excited about it. But you know who else is bringing us some energy? And she's got lots of things to do, but took a little time in her day to welcome you to the show. Please welcome Lori Johnson Ramirez. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me on. I am thrilled to be your first guest, Tessa.
I didn't
How
say
exciting.
You're our station manager.
I'm the station manager here at Houston Public Media, and of course, worked here for a very long time in the newsroom, and have done this job behind the microphone many times, even though it's not my job anymore. And I know how hard it is. I know what it takes. I'm so excited that you're here, that you've joined us, and I just think this is going to be absolutely an outstanding next era of Hello Houston.
I thank you for saying all of that. We had a serious chat before we decided. Before I decided, I sat down with Lori and we had a good chat about the show and what it means and what is required. And I think that there was a gut instinct to say, okay, you belong here. This is going to be really good.
Well, I know when we first heard that you might be available, I immediately said to my team, call Tessa, see if we can get her as a guest host. See, this could be it. I mean, I just
the guest
knew.
host, that was just not for show.
We
that
were
was
checking you out.
Yeah, that was a good audition. I just
audition.
had a feeling. I was like, this could be it. And it was it. And I'm thrilled that you're here. And I can't wait to see how Hello Houston evolves and changes with you on the team. I think it's going to be fantastic.
We joked a lot about it like it was speed dating.
Yeah,
but even
totally.
in speed
But
dating,
not
when
fast
you
enough.
not speedy enough. But it's funny when you have one of those dates and it's right. You feel it the moment you sit down with.
was
At least
a
I assume I've never
connection.
speed dated.
It was very long, a 2-hour show. It was a very long date.
It
That's
was a
actually
long date,
long
but it was a
date.
good date. We invited you back for a second day.
Well, I've always said that with, talking about relationships. Have you ever met a couple? It says, oh my gosh, we've been together for 15 years, but it feels like we've been, I blinked and it's been 15 years. And then you have the couples like, we've been dating for 1 year. It feels like 10.
Yeah, we felt every minute of it.
That's so important in a partnership, right?
Yes.
To someone, time needs to fly by. It needs to feel like we're having fun because we really are.
Yeah. Lori, before we let you get back to the daily tasks you do of running
I don't
this
really
whole
do
thing.
anything anymore. I send
She just
emails.
wants to stay here and talk sports,
this
comments,
radio-
Texans.
Oh, yeah. Listening to the two of them,
I'm
they were
so
talking
excited.
sports. I'm sitting here like, have fun. Have at it.
I'm so excited about the WNBA coming to Houston. I hope that when y'all do coverage on that, please feel free to invite me on because I'm
We
thrilled.
will.
Okay.
But what I
Big
was going to
Caitlin
ask
Clark
you,
fan.
what I was
Yes.
going to ask you is, what advice do you have for Tessa, having sat there, having
Oh.
done all these different jobs? You didn't just walk into the station one
give me
day
the
and get
good
this
stuff.
job. You've worked your way up through pretty much every seat around here.
Well, I think the beauty of working for public media is that everyone around you is here for the mission. Right? We're not
pretty cool.
we're not here for the paycheck.
That's for sure.
I'm joking. But no, we're here for the mission, and people really genuinely believe in what we're doing, which is providing a free community resource to everyone in the region. And I think if you come to work each day with that at the forefront of your mind, it's going to make everything, all those little annoyances, frustrations, bottlenecks that happen that are just normal in your day-to-day work. It helps to keep you centered and to remember this is about the people of Houston. This is all for you, and that's why we do it. And so I think that'll keep you really grounded.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that wisdom. And it's true because as fun as this job is work, right? But if you stay focused on, hey, why am I here? Why did I agree to this? Why do I want to do this?
What'd you say to me early today? Work hard, party hard.
No, I said work hard, play hard. And
Play hard.
Ernie goes, well, not play that hard. I go, okay, Ernie, we'll work hard, we'll play medium. That's fair. That's not too much to ask.
fair.
Okay.
That's right.
Well, Lori, thank you very
Thank you,
much for
Lori.
coming up and helping us launch this new era of the show.
Thank you. I hope you have a great first day. Break a leg, and thanks for having me on.
The good
Thank you
vibes
so
are
much.
felt.
Tessa, we have somebody else who you may not get a chance to talk to much anymore, or you may not know that well, but Martha's on the phone. Hello, Martha.
Good morning. Hello, Houston.
Hello. Now, how might you be? Who might you be?
Yeah, who are you affiliated with here?
I'm affiliated with this young lady. Her name is Tessa.
It's my
I
mom
don't
on
know
the
if
phone.
y'all know her, but she's always been a talker since she was a baby.
Oh, I'm counting on it. And if we don't know her, we're definitely going to get a chance to get to know her here on the show. What can you tell us? What should I be expecting from Tessa sitting next to her for the foreseeable future, for years to come, I hope?
Well, I think you're going to have trouble with saying the last word.
I don't let someone get the last word in. That's not true. And where did I learn that from, if so?
Well, I remember telling Tessa when she was small that, Tessa, you don't always have to have the last word about everything. And then she looked up at me completely seriously and she said, okay, Mom, but can I just say one more thing? And I remember thinking, this child is either going to be a lawyer or she's going to get paid to talk.
There you go.
So apparently she chose radio. So there she is.
Okay, Mama Tessa, tell me this. If I were to bring her something to make her very happy, what would be the kind of gift that excites her the most?
Food.
She knows.
Okay.
She knows. Yeah, preferably seafood. Seafood tower, love language.
Oh,
of
really?
mine. Yeah.
Food.
Good to know. We're going to bond on food. I can tell that already.
Well, Mom, I'm glad you made time out of your busy schedule to call in. We couldn't locate you. Church must have been wild yesterday.
I know. You know how that goes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for calling in. And even more so than that, thank you so much for giving us this girl, giving her life and letting her come to sit beside me today. And it's just such a joy to work with her. And I'm so appreciative to you. You did a good job raising this one.
Well, thank you. You're welcome, Houston. Corvus got to have her for a while, but, this is her next chapter, and she's moving into new opportunities. And I'm excited to watch her continue to evolve, rather than putting her on a ceiling and show everybody what she can do.
Thanks,
well,
Mom.
You mentioned watch her, and you can watch her. Everyone can watch her on our YouTube channel. We stream live right there. Just look for the Houston Public Media channel or search for Hello Houston, and you'll find us there. Martha, thank you so much for calling in today.
You're welcome. Talk to you later, Tess.
Bye,
Thanks.
Mom.
Bye-bye.
She's still asleep, I think.
Yeah, you woke her up.
I think so.
Was that what it was?
I think we bothered her on our first day. She's a teacher. I think they might still be on summer break down in Corpus. But so my family lives in Corpus Christi. That is just far enough away to where you can't spring up on a visit. But if you want to, you can make a day trip. So it's quite nice.
Well, it's interesting that you say you're from Corpus because earlier you were talking about your hairdo and you referenced Farrah Fawcett. And I'm like, oh, this girl's from Corpus.
We went to the same high school. Farrah Fawcett went to WB Ray, and that is where I graduated from. Go Texans. Texans fight on, I think is what it or victory begins at Ray, something silly like that. But yeah, it's a good time. And this one, being from Corpus Christi is one of the reasons why I wanted to move to Houston, being the closest major city.
Yeah. How long have you been in Houston?
I think it's like 8 years now.
8 years?
Yeah. Lucky number 8.
Do you still discover new things every day?
I do. And the city always surprises me in the best way. We went to Outdoor Miller Theater this week, and I think one of my favorite things about Houston is, my sister was in town, and we're hearing different languages on the metro. We're seeing little kids of all colors, a rainbow of kids just playing, and man, it's just beautiful. It's just a beautiful city.
If you don't follow Tessa's social media, you're missing a lot. You do a lot. You have energy.
I like to take advantage of what the city has to offer. I mean, I did. There was the Dynamo played this weekend. Didn't get to the Dynamo game, but I do know they beat the LA Galaxy 1-0. Very cool. Went to Miller Outdoor. Went to Terry Black's Barbecue, which will be opening, I think, on Tuesday. Yeah. So got some great barbecue. And yeah, I mean, take advantage of where we live. Gems around every corner.
So seafood over barbecue?
Ooh, yeah. Seafood over barbecue, only because of the availability of delicious barbecue everywhere. And I think, I don't know, seafood feels healthier. I can still continue my day, whereas if I have a good barbecue meal, it's like, okay, well,
over.
Good night.
Okay,
right.
Well, we've got some comments coming in too. And if you want to call and welcome Tessa, give us a call, 713-440-8870. Brandon says, welcome to Hello Houston, Tessa.
Thanks, Brandon.
Who else here? I'm quickly looking through this. We had I hope y'all had a fabulous weekend officially. Welcome Tessa to the team and a new era of Hello Houston. So it's great. People are excited. We're excited. I think we're like racking in some of our biggest numbers on YouTube right now.
Well, good. Let the numbers continue to come in. I'm happy to get to know everyone. And everyone, the thing about this show is everyone has a seat at the table, and we want you to get involved in on the conversation.
713-440-8870 coming up on today's show. We actually have to get to work now.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. We're going to be talking about cancer, colon cancer, and possibly a vaccine out there that could help with that. Also, we're going to be talking about crime, what you should know about crime, and how researching it and understanding it can help us have a safer society. The Texans, we're going to be talking Texans today. And also nuclear power. What show can you get all of that in? It's a whole lot. But we always start off with the headlines. Tessa, take us in.
Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport canceled plans to install a facility commonly used for Islamic prayer after Governor Greg Abbott threatened to withdraw state and federal funding on Friday. Abbott sent a letter to North Texas's airport CEO Christopher McLaughlin, as well as the mayors of Houston, Dallas, and Fort Worth, stating his office was in the process of reviewing all grant funds over facilities in their city's airports. He also sent a letter to U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy to refer the airports for federal investigations. These ablution facilities appear designed to single out one subset of the population for special treatment based on religion. That is illegal, Abbott said in a news release announcing the grant reviews. Both airports are government-owned facilities. The federal and state constitutions prohibit government from facilitating this sort of discrimination. Just as government cannot favor the secular over the sacred, it also cannot favor one religious view over all others. At the center of the investigation, grant and grant reviews are ablution facilities used by Muslim people for wudu, in which hands and feet are rinsed prior to prayer. Abbott said the facilities appear designed to single out one subset of the population for special treatment based on religion. This was all in his letter to the mayors, and he said funding would be revoked if their use continued. What are your thoughts on Abbott's threat? You can call or text 713-440-8870. What say you, Ernie?
What say me? I have a lot of thoughts on this. And I can understand how it can be a complicated issue because we are not supposed to favor one religion over another. We see things where they say at Christmas time you can't have a nativity in front of your courthouse because if it's government funding and all of that. But making space for people is different than endorsing.
Totally.
And so allowing, you made the point when we were chatting earlier about this, is that we're an international airport and people from all over the world are supposed to be able to pass through these spaces. And sometimes there are long waits. And so to accommodate the behaviors and needs of a group of people does not seem the same to me as endorsing it. And so I think I see no problem in the fact that they exist. I also see it as no one is told they can't enter it. Anybody can go in and practice this. It's not saying you have to be a certain group of people and others are excluded, just as there are meditation centers and chapels and things like that that are built into airports already. It's just even we were talking breastfeeding spots. So mothers can go in there and feed their children. All of those are making allowances for needs people have because an airport is a place where you have to be for a certain period of time.
Especially an international airport where so many people are passing through, all kinds of people, all different walks of life. Interfaith chapels, you had mentioned. And one of my favorite things to do always is to follow the money, because if our taxpayer dollars were being used to this, I mean, I don't know how I would feel about it. You know, it's like do we have a better use for taxpayer dollars? But this is a privately funded project, this ablution station. And I also think it's about the overall design of an international airport. It's supposed to cater to everyone. It's the same reason why you have vegetarian options on a menu. It's so that people with certain restrictions can eat, get a meal, and go on their way. It doesn't bother me that someone can practice their faith here. I mean, I don't know how much use you would get out of it. I don't know how many people stop by a chapel in the airport. I don't, how many practicing Muslims there are. But if it's something that's not coming out of pocket, why not? Why would I be bothered for a certain subset of people to have anything convenient? It doesn't bother me.
I will say that there is some discussion about exactly how it's funded and that it doesn't come from grant money, but it seems as though the airports themselves build it into operation or capital improvement figures. So that becomes the question.
I see.
And the dispute is that the state grant was not that the state grant was earmarked especially for that, but Abbott argues that airports receive public funds, so they should not use airport resources to facilitate it because they do generate income through rentals and things like that. Airports do, and then they use that in their general funds.
Right.
But let's grab a quick phone call, 713-440-8870. Barbara from Magnolia is on the line. Barbara, what are your thoughts?
When you were talking about this, it occurred to me that the same governor who is threatening to take away funds because we make a place where Muslims can pray is also the one who pushed the bill requiring the 10 Commandments to be in every classroom in the state. And it seems to me that if there's something wrong with one of those things, there's something wrong with both of them.
I hear what you're saying, and I appreciate you, Barbara, for joining the conversation. It's 713-440-8870. Your mom said, Tessa, that you always have to have the final word. So before we move on, any final thoughts on this topic?
Well, I think that was kind of the one thing that sticks out because people that were so adamant about having the 10 Commandments, I think it's important to listen to people on opposing side. So I do remember, I believe it was J.D. Vance on the Joe Rogan podcast. He was on the Joe Rogan podcast and he was saying, oh, well, the 10 Commandments in school, well, I would, if I wasn't, Christian, I would say, oh, look, this is how other religions do things. And I would be open to that. So it doesn't appear that it's the same across all design. You know what I mean? I guess airports where people can wash their feet in a convenient manner. I guess that's where some people draw the line.
And a final thought for me on this is what you don't want is for a lot of people who use our airports to start passing over Texas, going to a different airport or something, because we need those dollars. We need that tourism and the ability to be a hub, and state airports, airlines, that's the word I'm looking for, would start moving off. All right, we're going back to the phones really quickly. We have a call from Chris from Cyprus. Chris, what's on your mind today?
Hi. First, I want to welcome Tess to the airways, and you guys are doing a great job as always. About the threat from the governor, it's all about accommodation. There's so many people that pass through our doors, and making them feel welcome and kind of respecting where they come from. I don't think it doesn't hurt anyone. And there's a lot to be said for a separation of, church and state. You put politics and religion together, and, you're asking for trouble.
Thank you very much, Chris, for calling. One more call. Greg from Montrose is on the line. Greg, what are you thinking?
Well, before I get to my welcome to Tessa, I just want to say that I think Abbott's goal is to neglect anybody that's not within his cultural order, which is basically white, Christian, wealthy male. That's my view. But I also want to say welcome to Hello Houston, Tessa. You and Ernie are going to be a fantastic team. Houston. I think you're out every single night. You educate us on what to do. And I was privileged to be a guest on your show with Derek, and you just made me feel so comfortable that by the time I got on the air, I felt like I was talking to an old friend.
As you should. And you are. This is our city. This is our show. And thank you so much for the welcome. And you commenting that reminded me, this is so surprising for Abbott to dig his heels on something like this. One airport in Texas. Meanwhile, our national park is on the verge of getting bulldozed. I know Texans feel a certain way about that, and he has been totally quiet on that. So that is pretty frustrating. But your call was not. Your call is lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Greg, for calling. And remember, we're welcome all points of views and all welcomes to Tessa at 713-440-8870. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be talking about colon cancer, what puts you at risk, and the warning signs to watch for, and why early detection matters. This is Hello Houston on News 88.7.
Meet Tio Choco. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. This is his story. Visit ridemetro.org/Choco to find out where is Choco.
Matching gift programs, doubling or even tripling employee contributions. It's an easy way to maximize your impact on the programs you rely on. Search for your company and get started today at houstonpublicmedia.org/match.
I'm Stephen Dubner. On the next Freakonomics Radio, some of the biggest technology players are looking to move AI into space.
You have very different regulatory regimes. You don't need to take up anyone's land to put it up there.
In this new space race, who gets to make the rules?
Do we need a major disaster happening first until we see the need for something like this?
That's next time on Freakonomics Radio.
You can hear that tonight at 10 p.m.
Houston Public Media provides a free, essential, and trusted public service to everyone in Southeast Texas. The generosity of our Affinity Council Committee enables us to identify new audiences and new opportunities to bring inspiration, insight, and connection through public media. Dr. Pamela and Dr. Peter Trialo, Thomas Walheim, John E. Walsh Jr., Mary Fay and Peter Way, Karen Weaver and Jimmy Dunn, Carol and Eldon White. Thank you.
Support comes from Vestige Law, representing commercial and residential property owners in matters involving highway expansion, pipelines, and other eminent domain proceedings. Learn more at vestige.law.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Texas Mutual Insurance Company, a workers' compensation provider committed to helping Texas communities and emphasizing safety. More at texasmutual.com/TexansGetIt.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713
440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manous and Tessa Barrera.
Welcome back to Hello Houston. A new clinical trial at MD Anderson is testing whether an existing cancer treatment could help patients with colon cancer. As researchers look for new ways to treat the disease, prevention and early detection remain critical, especially for women who may overlook some warning signs. Joining us now, Dr. Stacy Norton, an obstetrician and gynecologist with Houston Methodist Willowbrook, to talk about colon cancer risks, symptoms, and what women should know. Dr. Norton, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. Well, I'm excited to be your first guest.
You never forget your first, okay? You never forget your first. And colon cancer is always, I think, a conversation that's been centered around men. But you're saying that women actually need to be vigilant with this. Why so?
Absolutely. Well, a lot of women use their obstetrician and gynecologist as their primary caregiver, their primary doctor. And so when we do well woman exams and visits, we talk about health maintenance and we talk to patients about colon cancer screening. We did recommend colon cancer screening to start at 50, and now we've lowered that age to 45. And women, I think, take care of everyone but themselves. So it's real important that they also take care of themselves so that they can take care of their families.
The numbers seem to be getting younger and younger. I think this is like a common theme that we all hear again. She was only 35. She was only 42. What do you think is a cause of that? I mean, is that just something, are we noticing more? Is the medicine better? What is going on?
I think all of the above. I think that probably there's multifactorial. We are noticing it better. We can catch things earlier, but we also have processed foods and environment we live in. But I also think people need to know about their genetic risk factors. And this is something really important to myself because my mom passed away in her early 30s of colon cancer, and I have a hereditary cancer mutation. So I talk to all of my patients about that. Make sure they understand their risks and what they can do to prevent things early.
I want to go into a little about earlier screening and detection. And you say we've gone from 50 down to 45. And I'm curious, is it because we have become better aware at identifying it earlier, or is it that we have started getting it earlier and the reasons for us getting colon cancer earlier?
So I think both. Medicine is always evolving. Our colonoscopies, our screenings, the way we can see polyps, remove them earlier, so that we're doing better earlier. But also, it's happening at younger ages. So I think it's both of those things.
Why do we think it's happening at younger ages?
We're finding them at younger ages, but also we now know that there's risks that you have in families that can make you have it at a much earlier age, under 50.
We're speaking with Dr. Stacy Norton of Houston Methodist Willowbrook about colon cancer. You talked about this genetic gene, this certain mutation, and I'm only familiar with that because I know it's the same for breast cancer or ovarian cancer. So what is, if you have that certain mutation, what is the advisement?
So I am so glad you said that. Most people have heard of the BRCA gene, right? This is a gene that makes you at risk of breast and ovarian cancer. And the rate is about 1 in 350 people have this gene. Most people have heard of it because Angelina Jolie stood up and said she has it. But the other very common hereditary cancer mutation is Lynch syndrome, and most people have not heard of that. No famous person stood up and said they have that. But it's actually, the risk is 1 in 280 people have a Lynch syndrome mutation, and it's 5 genes, MLH1, MSH2, MSH6, PMS2, and EpCAM. And these mutations are part of your body's spell check, if you will. So if you make mistakes in your DNA and your cells copy each other, you're supposed to have these genes that correct it. If you have a mutation in one of those, your body doesn't catch it, doesn't correct it, and you're at increased risk of certain cancers earlier in your lifetime. So it's Lynch syndrome.
And when I hear that said, I think a lot of people fear, if I find out I'm at a higher risk of getting it, I don't want to know that there's a fear of cancer still to so many people does not have a positive outcome. But they have to realize, as you said earlier, medical help treatments have evolved.
They have evolved, absolutely. And knowledge is power. Now, everyone has the choice to make whether they want to be screened or tested if they have these genes or not. But if you do, then you can be proactive. You can have colonoscopies much earlier in your life and have these polyps removed so you don't develop colon cancer. Women with Lynch syndrome have a higher risk of uterine cancer. You could possibly use a progesterone IUD to decrease your risk of uterine cancer. And being on combined hormonal contraceptives can lower your risk of ovarian cancer. Skin screenings, all these things you can catch much, much earlier, and you're going to be safer and have better outcomes if you catch things earlier.
Talk a little bit about, I'm sorry we're talking about this in the morning, about polyps.
Yes.
And the point with that, when you have a colonoscopy, they're looking for these. It's important that we find them because those become cancer, correct? Or can become.
Absolutely. That's exactly right. So you're seeing them at an early stage and removing them so that they don't become cancerous. That's the whole point. And the whole point of this trial is a vaccine to help your body. If you have one of these mutations and you don't catch things early, they're going to give you a vaccine that makes your body recognize these early things and go ahead and kill those cells early before those things happen. That's the whole point of the trial.
Okay, so when did the trial start and who is involved in it?
So the trial was at MD Anderson, and it started in 2022, and it concluded in 2024. And it was 45 people who have a hereditary cancer mutation, Lynch syndrome. I'm one of the participants.
Wow.
So I went over there because I knew about this trial, and I advocated for myself, and I participated in this trial. We got a vaccine, actually an initial vaccine. 8 weeks later, we got a boost. Then we had blood work during the time the next year following. Oh, and I forgot to say beforehand, we had to have all of our screenings to make sure we had no evidence of disease before starting the trial, right? So that's beforehand. Then we got the vaccine. We had a bunch of blood work. Then a year later, those of us that were keep participating got the vaccine again, a booster, if you will, more blood work, and then had our colonoscopies at the end. And at the end, when I had my colonoscopy, that's the first time I've ever had a colonoscopy and had no polyps.
Oh.
My next one, also no polyps. My third one hasn't been yet, but I think that's extremely promising.
Previously, had you had polyps?
Every single time.
Wow.
And granted, it's a single case.
It's a single person.
It's a relatively small study, but it is very hopeful. And you talk about the vaccine, and I'm curious. We use the term cancer, and it seems to encompass a lot of things. But could this vaccine also aid in other cancers? Do they believe that there's a hope there?
Yes. So the theory behind this is also being used in other cancers to help prevent those as well, right? So this vaccine helps target certain Lynch syndrome cancers. So the same thing could be said for other vaccines, that you develop those to help prevent other cancers in the future. So that's a thought.
And I know it's a little outside of maybe your area, but there was also some study that recently came out about a skin patch that you would put on for skin cancer, and it showed amazing results.
I'm not familiar with that one.
Okay, yeah, I knew that. I thought it was a little out of your area, but I wanted to ask about it. But look into that. So there are these advances happening now where it seems like it's happening much more frequently and much more hopefully.
Is much more hopefully. And I think that's one of the things I want to share is that I work at Houston Methodist, and this study was done at MD Anderson, but cross-collaboration across the health systems, when we work together, we accomplish so much more for all of our patients. And I want that to be one of the examples. That's why I participated in the study. I mean, I ask my patients all the time to participate in studies, but when it was my turn, of course I'm going to participate by leading by example.
Wow. I've always hoped and the thought of a cure for this awful disease would happen in, our backyard. It seems like, the results are hopeful. What is the age range of people in the trial?
The age range, the average age was 50. So most people were between 30 to 60-ish. But yeah, there was only 45 people, and it was a phase 1 trial. So everybody got the vaccine to prove it was safe and effective, that we all mounted antibodies and had no serious side effect.
Now, I also have a question about, are there any other red flags that people tells that people could say, okay, maybe I have, are there any red flags for colon cancer?
Outside of polyps and getting that study.
Because it's such an internal, internally affected organ. I mean, how would you know?
So because it is an internal organ, it is kind of vague, right? You could have bloating, you could have problems with digestion, you could have blood in your stool, thin stools, any change in your bowel habits would be one of those things to seek advice and see your doctor. But because it's an internal organ, really hard to tell. You can't physically see your colon, you can't see what's going on inside, so it's hard to tell. But we just talk to people about knowing their bodies, recognize your symptoms have changed, your system has changed, and bring it up to your physician.
I'm going to step into an area I know very little about, but a lot of these symptoms can mean other things. A lot of them are often occurring with women, especially through their cycle and things like that. How do you know when it's something to pay attention to?
I think if it's something you're used to having a certain cycle, a certain bowel habit, if things are changed for you and it sustains, then it's time to go see your primary care or your OBGYN. But you're right. It's hard to tell. All of these things live in your abdomen and pelvis, and it could be one of many, many things.
Mm-hmm. Are there plans for, sorry, Ernie, sorry to jump in, but I'm interested in, are there plans for a next trial, and will it be larger? Is there a larger subset?
So the part that was published was just the first set where we all got the boost and the prime. The second paper, hopefully coming out, is the second part of that, where we got another one a year later. And then hopefully the next steps, now I don't exactly know the next steps because I'm just the participant, but it would be a double-blinded where some got the placebo and some got the vaccine. So there's next steps in the works, but how fast or soon it is, I don't know.
I think we may have missed one part in this conversation, and it's yours came out great.
Mm-hmm.
What do we know about the rest of the participants? What did the study show?
Very positive. Very positive. Decrease in overall polyps in their subsequent colonoscopies.
I want to remind everyone we're talking with Dr. Stacy Norton from Houston Methodist Willowbrook about colon cancer. All too often, and if you want to join the conversation, of course, 713-440-8870. We see a lot of commercials, once again, sorry folks, about pooping in a box.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great way to tell. Is that, and should that replace, if you have one of those tests, should you feel safe and reassured so maybe you don't need a colonoscopy? Where do we fall on this?
So the commercial box test is for people that are low risk. It's not for people with high risk that have family history or have one of these genes. They are for low risk persons, and they're a screening tool. So if yours is negative, then we feel pretty safe for the next 3 years that you're okay. But if you have a positive test on one of those home box kits, the next step would be a colonoscopy. So these tests are very good, but they are meant for people at low risk.
Okay. Other things we could do to offset the chance of getting, now, of course, there's the genetic determiner, and you can't help that part of it. But what are things that every one of us should be doing or could be doing for a more positive health outcome when it comes to colon cancer?
They're the things we always talk to our patients about.
Oh, the boring things.
Tell me, remind me.
They're eating a healthy diet, high fiber, low processed foods, drink lots of water, sleep. Sleep is very important. Taking care of yourself, manage your stress, all those kind of things. So yes, keeping your bowels happy is going to keep you happy.
The simple stuff that we so often overlook.
The stuff we don't want to do.
Right.
We all want to think there's a pill that's going to take care of it. We don't have to eat healthy, but you do.
You do.
A healthier whole system is a healthier system overall.
Absolutely. No smoking, those kind of things.
Dr. Norton, what are you excited about with your outcome? I mean, you must be ecstatic that you are seeing positive results, but what is your hope? What is your hope for the greater community, Houston? Is this something that we could have access to in the near future?
So my best hope is that there's more awareness, right? Because I think that people don't even know what Lynch syndrome is, don't know that they're at risk.
I Googled
right?
it immediately once you said it, because you have to. Yeah.
So I hope for awareness. I hope awareness that people understand participating in trials is necessary, right? Because somebody has to come up with the treatment. Someone has to organize the trial. We have to have participants, right? If you don't participate, we're not going to move medicine forward. And then selfishly, for my 2 adult kids who have the mutation, I hope that this is something available for them very, very soon, that they can participate in the next part of this trial. So awareness, participation in research trials, and then hope for people who have this in the future.
We were talking a little bit about symptoms and things to watch out for. I'm assuming also, you say you know your body. But what I often hear is when menopause hits, a lot of women find very unique, surprising things about their body. And I would guess this just reinforces how important it is to have a medical person you work with, especially when you're going through menopause, so you know what's natural and normal through menopause, what's natural and right for you, as opposed to maybe a more serious condition.
Absolutely. So it's important to have an OBGYN throughout a woman's life, but absolutely someone you know, you trust, that's taken care of you for a long time, that has your best interest in heart, that can answer your questions about, is this normal? Is this not normal? When should I worry? When do I need to seek help and have things investigated?
Because I would guess the ages kind of hit at the same point when you're more likely to get colon cancer, when you're hitting menopause. Not that the two may be connected, but simply the fact that they hit around the same time.
Absolutely. And the lines are blurred. Is this a normal symptom or is this something I should be worried about?
Are you concerned about women's health care, especially when it comes to gynecological issues in today's environment in our state? Is it harder for people to get care? And if they're in an area where it's harder to get care, what do you recommend for them to find good information?
I think that, yes, there can be difficulties and challenges in our state, physically as well as others. There are many counties in Texas that don't have OBGYN care.
Right. We did a whole story on that recently, yeah.
But thankfully, we do use telehealth a lot more than we used to. We can have telehealth visits. I myself, after the pandemic, we use telehealth, and I can have telehealth visits with my college girls that may be out of the state, right? So I think that those are helpful tools, is telehealth.
Well, I can't thank you enough for coming in today. Tessa and I can't thank you enough for coming. I'm so happy I can say that now.
It's a good one.
Yeah. Okay. Dr. Norton, thank you
chat.
so much for helping us. You come to us from Houston Methodist, Willowbrook. And last word to everyone, they should do what?
Listen to their body and take care of themselves.
Said it better than we could. Thank you very much. Coming up, we've got a lot more to talk about. How research can help shape smarter crime prevention. That's coming up next right here on Hello Houston.
Meet Gamola, songwriter, world-class violinist, and award-winning multi-genre artist. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. Visit ridemetro.org/Gamola to learn more about his ride.
Our employees make it to work has been crazy beneficial for us.
I'm Rob Schmitz, the app that's serving as a safety net. That story on All Things Considered from NPR News.
It's coming up today at 3 o'clock.
I'm Rob Schmitz. 4 states, California, Colorado, Kentucky, and New Jersey, are suing Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram. They say Meta designed its social media platforms to hook children, lied about the risks, and violated the law by gathering data on kids. Kentucky Attorney General Russell Coleman talks about this case next time on Here and Now.
It's on today at 1 o'clock.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from attorney mediator Ron Bankston, providing in-person, video conference, and hybrid mediation and arbitration services. More information is available at ronbankston.com.
Support comes from the 2026-2027 Imprint Brown Reading Series, launching this season with fiction writers Andrea Baiani and Claire Vay Watkins, sharing their novels The Anniversary and Yellow Pine, Monday, August 24th. More at imprint.org.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from CenterPoint Energy, investing in a stronger electric infrastructure with more than 69,000 stronger poles in place to help reduce damage and support power restoration after storms.
Support also comes from the Grand 1894 Opera House in Galveston, presenting the 2026-27 season, including live music, Broadway musicals, and more, featuring John Mulaney, The Commodores, Waitress the Musical, and other performances. Tickets at thegrand.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manous and Tessa Barrera.
A new center at the University of Houston downtown is bringing researchers, students, and law enforcement together to better understand what drives crime and how to prevent it. The Center for Crime, Urban Research and Education, or CCURE, launched with $2.6 million in state funding and is led by its first director, Dr. Sally Ann Ashton, a criminal psychology and juvenile justice expert. And she joins us to discuss how research can shape smarter crime prevention and what CCURE hopes to bring to the Houston Region, Dr. Ashton. Welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you here. I'm going to start with kind of a broad, silly question, which is, what causes crime? I think we all seem to think we know the answer. Why isn't that enough?
Because it's a complex jigsaw, and there are elements that are very common in terms of areas where crime occurs, people who are survivors or victims of crime, and also people who perpetrate crime. But really, when we're looking at crime, we can look at it in a single entity, but there are different reasons and motivations for committing crime too. So I like to see it as a very complex jigsaw. And it's one of those jigsaws where we don't always have all of the pieces because it's a secondhand jigsaw and we're missing a couple of critical pieces. So there are social reasons, there are psychological reasons. What we will be doing at Secure is to be looking at crime holistically. We'll be looking at both why does it occur on an individual level, why does it occur at a society level too. So we're going to be looking at it comprehensively.
And to stay with that for just a moment more, the concerns, problems when we oversimplify something like that, and why it's important to dig into it and better understand.
Absolutely. So we would try and prevent different crimes in a different way. So generally crimes split between an instrumental crime, a crime that's committed to get something from that. And it could be an item, it could be money, or it could be status. But we also have, and actually these are the most common violent crimes that concern people, expressive crimes, crimes that occur because somebody has lost their temper or somebody wants to commit an act for revenge. So aggravated assault, as we would term it here in Texas, is actually one of the most common violent crimes in all cities. And yet we tend to concentrate on the homicides rather than the aggravated assaults, which are much more commonplace, and people are more likely to be a victim of that too. So I think really breaking crime down into what's the motivation, that's going to really depend on how we respond to that crime and also how we try and prevent it too. Prevention is really where we need to be so that we don't have more crime.
Houston is a beautiful city, but there are often, the headlines, like you said, very homicide focused. And it seems like this is a place that could absolutely benefit from this study. What is your hope to attract younger people into this science, to this holistic science?
Absolutely. I really see the centre as a place of knowledge transfer. So we don't have all the answers as academics. We need to speak to practitioners. We need to speak to community members who are living with crime on a daily basis. We need to speak to the practitioners who support people who are criminally involved and who support the victims of crime, survivors of crime too. So I'm really hoping that although we'll be focusing on the data, the police data, we're going to be looking at this holistically, and we become a place where people can get together for knowledge transfer. So what I intend to do is when we decide an area that we might want to look at, is to get all of the people who are involved to steer that research. It's not just going to be me sat in my office saying, I think we should do this. Yes, obviously that's going to be an element, but that would be pointless. There's so much knowledge out there in terms of crime, lived experience of crime and crime victimization, the people who have been supporting victims of crime, for instance, and perpetrators too, to rehabilitate them. We need to bring all of those people to the table so that we can advise our law enforcement partners, certainly, because they're the people that turn up when a crime actually happens.
Is it safe to assume or to characterize it this way, that we spend so much of our effort on securing what we have at that end of crime, almost like at an illness, that we're more concerned about taking care of it once we got sick instead of studying how we got sick in the first place? Is that kind of a similar approach?
Yeah, so Scotland in particular have been leading a public health response to crime, treating it as if it's a public health problem. And that's had some really sort of good outcomes. Crime is complex, as I said, but yeah, I think we need to be working and looking at it holistically rather than reacting. We need to see how we can prevent it in the first place. And of course, generally because of lack of funding, because people are overstretched, we tend to focus on crime when it's occurring in an area, a hotspot, a crime hotspot. And then, all attention is on that area or that particular neighborhood. And that will work for a certain period of time as people kind of crack down on that neighborhood and try and drive crime out. But longer term, we need to kind of fix that. And, one angle that we often forget to look at is community policing, not just a single unit within a police agency, but more broadly community policing. We have to backfill what happens when the harsher policing kind of leaves an area of a crime hotspot. And I'm really hoping also that, this isn't just about sort of more policing, it's about more strategic policing as well. It's about giving our colleagues in law enforcement examples from overseas, examples from nationally, where interventions and strategies have really worked for areas that may be similar to Houston or maybe different to Houston. I'm very keen that we share as much as possible in terms of academic research and also programs that have been evaluated elsewhere to see if they might be helpful or useful for our partners.
We are speaking with Dr. Sally Ann Ashton. She's the inaugural director of the University of Houston's Downtown Center for Crime, Urban Research, and Education. If you'd like to join in on this conversation, you can call or text 713-440-8870. Dr. Ashton, you have a background in juvenile justice. Mm-hmm. You have a background in criminal physiology, and you're the first director of C-Cure. What are you excited about? What excites you?
I think I'm really excited, first of all, to be downtown in Houston where everything's happening and with all of those agencies kind of on our doorstep. I mean, University of Houston downtown is in a fantastic place for this center. You couldn't have really planned it better. So I'm very happy to have moved to the University of Houston downtown. I'm really excited about starting to dig really sort of deep and just kind of look at things in an alternative way and to see what we can find when we look at crime across different agencies, because of course, agencies don't always have access to other agency data. They don't have access to academic information that we may have. So I'm really excited that this is going to become a hub for kind of knowledge transfer. That's what I really want the centre to be. And it's got to be functional. It's not just about us sitting in front of our computers analysing crime stats. No, it's more than that.
Well, as someone who admittedly watches, the true crime documentaries, the CSIs, the things like that, it's so often, like you said, like if only this agency, if only the FBI had talked with local police, if only, is this a bridge, a web to kind of communicate better across all of the different agencies?
I really hope so. I mean, obviously those agencies communicate with each other, but they're all really stretched in terms of, their person power and just dealing with crime, particularly in a large urban area, all of the agencies that work here. And there are a lot of agencies, even in Harris County alone. It's over 63 or 80, depending on which kind of source you have a look at, and that's not including the federal agencies that also work in partnership. So I think it's really critical that, we will have the time to look at the data and to look for patterns and to look for differences too. And, that's not something that most law enforcement agencies, even if they have analysts, have the time to do. So that's where I think we can really sort of come in and support our partners.
Are there patterns and behaviors you're expecting to find that we may not have thought of, that things have been like percolating back there in your brain for a bit, and now you have the opportunity to pursue it?
I think so. I'm very interested in really sort of drilling down into, single offence types and seeing if there are multiple motivations for those offences. The other thing that, of course, not all crime gets reported. A large percentage of crime isn't reported. A large percentage of people who commit crimes are not arrested for every offence that they commit. So it's really about how we can sensibly and statistically fill in those gaps in the data so that we can really sort of try and figure out what are we missing? How do we fill those gaps in, and what difference do those gaps make when we're looking at the data more broadly, if that makes sense?
And really quickly, is there a difference from the way you look at it between violence and crime, or are they connected? Are they the same thing?
It depends on the violent crime. So something like robbery, that includes an inquisitive crime because you're actually obtaining something, and it's also a violent crime. So we would look at that differently, and generally the profile of people who commit robbery is different to people who would commit assault. So one is expressive. It's often something that juveniles can be involved in, the assault, because they don't have control of their impulses. That's something that takes quite a long time for a lot of people to develop up until their mid-20s. That's very different from using violence instrumentally to actually obtain something. And in fact, one assault is generally undertaken by a single person. Robberies are typically undertaken by a group.
Well, Dr. Sally Ann Ashton, you're a wealth of knowledge. She's the inaugural director of the University of Houston Downtown Center for Crime, Urban Research, and Education. Thank you so much for joining us today on Hello Houston. Coming up, we'll continue discussing today's top headlines. We're also going to chat with legendary sports writer John McClain about the Houston Texans' new season. So stay with us. We've got another hour of Hello Houston on the way.
Yeah. Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Alley Theater, celebrating its 80th year with a season honoring 8 decades of live theater, storytelling, and artistic innovation. Season information at alleytheater.org.
Remember, you can watch Hello Houston on HPM Plus, free to download for smart TVs. Hot, the high 99, heat index values as high as 107. This is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston.
Just ahead on this hour, Hello Houston, a small number of immigration advocates gathered in southwest Houston on Friday morning accusing Home Depot of being complicit in ICE arrests under the Trump administration. We'll discuss this and more as we continue diving into the top headlines of the day. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Tessa Barrera. Can the Texans finally take the leap from playoff participant to true contender? Hall of Fame football writer John McClain joins us to break down the expectations, the pressure, and the questions facing Houston this season.
Plus, Texas energy demands are exploding. So what role could nuclear power and the University of Houston play in satisfying that need?
We want to hear from you. Give us a call or text us 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Louise Schiavone. The deadline to establish peace talks between the U.S. and Iran expired today with no negotiations planned and the status of the Strait of Hormuz still in dispute. NPR's Jane Araf has more.
The U.S. and Iran signed a memorandum of understanding in June that called for reaching a final agreement in 60 days. There have been mediation attempts by other countries, but no U.S.-Iranian negotiations since then. Iran says the U.S. isn't serious about negotiating. President Trump has threatened new sanctions against Iran over their restrictions on the Strait of Hormuz. While the June agreement called for the U.S. to begin removing its naval blockade and Iran to allow transit through the key waterway within 30 days, neither of those have happened either. The ceasefire was broken in July with attacks by both the U.S. and Iran. Jane Araf, NPR News, Amman.
Much of Hawaii is still recovering from Lala. The storm brushed the islands as a hurricane over the weekend before weakening to a tropical storm. Bill Dorman with Hawaii Public Radio says the power is out for more than 100,000 customers.
All public schools in the state of Hawaii are closed today. So are government offices. Exceptions are emergency workers and those working crucial services, and they have a lot to do. Damage assessments are still coming in. The southern part of Hawaii Island was one of the hardest hit areas, with half a dozen local bridges destroyed or heavily damaged. Rock slides, mudslides, and flooding of saturated ground remain challenges across the islands. Emergency crews restored electricity to thousands, but for so many, recovery is just beginning. For NPR News, I'm Bill Dorman in Honolulu.
The Trump administration is pressing state and local law enforcement to partner more directly with ICE through a new program that empowers local police to enforce federal immigration laws. NPR's Jacqueline Diaz reports.
Under the Trump administration, the 287G program has exploded. ICE has signed more than 2,300 contracts with local agencies across the country, giving officers in those agencies various powers for immigration enforcement, like interrogating or arresting immigrants suspected of being in the U.S. illegally. Not every department in the program sees immigration enforcement as a major priority. In Florida, Walton County Sheriff Michael Atkinson says his office does some 287G work, but their approach is narrow. His office joined 287G last year.
We're not doing immigration sweeps because, quite frankly, we have day jobs here. We have other things that are critically important to the local people here that they expect to be done.
But other agencies are participating in operations and making a lot of arrests. Jacqueline Diaz, NPR News.
Wall Street at this hour, the Dow is off 214 points, the Nasdaq flat. This is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Jack Williams. Houston's water utility is on shaky financial footing. That's according to S&P Global, one of the big three credit ratings agencies. News 88.7's Dominic Anthony Walsh reports the negative outlook comes after Mayor John Whitmire's administration shook up the city's finances.
City officials implemented sweeping reforms in June in an effort to stave off a daunting deficit in the general fund, which supports most city services. They moved garbage services to the water utility and diverted revenue from the utility to the general fund. S&P improved its outlook on the general fund in June, but lowered its outlook on the utilities finances this month.
They exposed the budget for what it is, which is a shell game.
That's City Controller Chris Hollins.
No new money being created, just moving money from one pocket to the other.
S&P analysts say it's unclear how the utility plans to cover the new expenses. Administration officials say they're committed to maintaining strong credit. The negative outlook signals a possible credit downgrade, which would lead to more expensive bonds and potential water rate hikes. I'm Dominic Anthony Walsh, News 88.7.
Texas state regulators say it could take months to complete a data center audit ordered by the governor. Until the audit is completed, regulators cannot approve new data center projects. Chad Seeley is a senior vice president for ERCOT, which operates the state's power grid. During a meeting on Friday, he said although the audit will cause delays, it will gather helpful information for the state.
Just from a holistic standpoint, having all that community impact information on how they're handling water technology, power deliverability, gives a better perspective to the state.
Texas energy regulators will meet again Thursday to discuss the audit. Sports, the Astros dropped one to the Mariners at Dyken Park yesterday, 3-2. They have the day off today, host the Angels tomorrow night at home. Houston still holds a 2-game lead in the American League West. Hot is the theme for the week. Weather-wise, going to be hot again today, the high around 99. Mostly clear tonight, the low 78. Tomorrow's high 99. 87 degrees here at the University of Houston. I'm Jack Williams, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance, where drivers can bundle and customize their home and auto insurance in one place with the goal of protecting what matters most. Coverage options at progressive.com or 1-800-PROGRESSIVE.
Live from Houston Public Media, News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Ernie Manous and Tessa Barrera.
Those words are so nice to hear. And Tessa Barrera.
Just flows.
Just flows like it was always meant to be. Welcome to the Pro. It's your first show. You made it through the first hour. You're still sitting there, which means you didn't run screaming.
Oh, I got up and I did a little stretch. I'm just getting ready for this too. It's been a while. So it's like riding a bike, though.
I was just going to say, it's like riding a bike.
Totally.
Once you've done it. And you do it effortlessly, which I really enjoy.
Right, because now I have an e-bike. Now I have a motor, so I don't have to pedal anymore.
Oh, I think I meant an Ernie bike. An e-bike.
Right. Ernie e-bike.
Well, Tessa Barrera's first day on the show now and not as a guest host, as we have said for 15 weeks of people sitting next to me. I can just say with me is.
Yeah.
And we're in it now.
Drop the guest.
I walked in today and I said, "Hey, wifey." It's like a marriage.
And I go, "Hey." Yeah, from my office, which is not decorated at all, by the way. It's so sad in there. But I'm going to work on that, too. Lots of working on.
Lots of work.
Yeah.
In our first hour, we were talking about a lot of different things, and one of them being about cancer screenings and knowing ahead of time, and about vaccines that are coming along. And it's really fascinating, especially because we live in the city we live in, where health studies and understanding are so important, and we have opportunities here to be at the cutting edge of a lot of technologies.
And to be a part of these conversations where, when you're a practicing physician and you put yourself in a batch of one of these trials, I mean, talk about you. We always say, like, put your money where your mouth is. That is the ultimate, seal of approval. And I'm glad that we had that chat. And I think I told all the YouTubers on the YouTube, hey, you should Google this Lynch syndrome that this doctor is talking about, because I didn't realize it affected so many Americans.
It's amazing. And it's also funny, too, that you say to our YouTubers, because I say this all the time, if you're not following the show on YouTube and in that chat group, you're missing a whole lot. There's a lot that goes on in that with our wonderful listeners and fans. And so
you guys are funny.
Yeah, and you're very funny, too. In addition to that, we were talking about crime.
Yeah.
And a new holistic approach at attempting to understand it better. And I was joking with you earlier about that, is the fact it's like, duh, we know what causes crime. But do we really? And what are the real motivators behind it? And why do some people turn to crime and others don't? And what are the decisions? And what if you're a one-time offender? Does that mean then you are more likely to commit more crimes? And it's a lot of information we don't really look at or fully understand. And we were talking with our guest when she was leaving about wanted to come back to dig deeper into the psychology of crime.
Well, especially specific crimes, right? Why is there so much domestic violence? Why is there, the aggravated robbery versus regular robbery? I mean, she can really get into the nuts and bolts in some of these things. And I think the only way we do solve a community problem as big as crime is by being a community and having that understanding. And, she said she was thrilled to be downtown. Downtown, that's my hood. So I was really intrigued on all of that.
Well, it's also interesting, too, about the approach of the psychology of crime and wanting to spend more time understanding that. Not just, I think we spend a lot of time because we see it on TV, the whole idea of, the CSIs and all that, figuring out the science of solving a crime.
Right.
But do we spend as much time or as much as we should in the psychology of why it initially happens?
Totally. Totally.
A lot to think about there. Always a lot to think about on the show. One thing we're thinking a lot about is about you, Tessa.
That's so nice.
Today we're
I like it
thinking
like
about
that.
you. Our phone number here is 713-440-8870. And we've got another guest on the phone. Some call him George. Some call him Jorge. You call him?
Georgie.
Georgie?
My baby bro.
It's your bro. Hello there. Welcome to the program.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Out here from my beautiful ranch in Frio, Texas.
Well, we're happy you joined us. I'm asking all the family members, what do I need to know about Tessa to make this a good relationship?
Well, Tessa's one of one, that's for sure. Don't be fooled. She was a big brother disguised in women's clothing growing up. Very, very bold and courageous. If it meant, climbing a tree or swimming to the deep end of the pool or, climbing a roof, she was the one who got my butt to get up there and do it. Yeah. So, very, very bold, very courageous. She's gonna put her passion and her whole spirit into this occupation. So you got a good one. That's for sure.
Thank you, Georgie.
More than all of that, though, the most important question: am I going to have fun with her?
Oh my goodness, yeah. We're the family's gonna lease her out to you guys up there at Hello Houston. But as far as fun, there's not gonna be any shortcomings of fun and adventure with Tessa here. She, really anything we did growing up. It was something. Her and I kind of share like an inside humor. Uh-huh. Anytime we go places, if there's something silly that comes up, we stare at each other, we laugh. She's the one that'll be like, hey, get up and wear this and do a dance, or hey, stand up, let me do a TikTok, or hey, let me mix together this concoction and you eat it for $5 so I can laugh.
Well, I got to ask one other question, though, which I find fascinating about her is I think we see a lot of what you're talking about, the vivaciousness, the funness, the going after the exciting challenge and the adventure. But there's also the really deep, thoughtful side of her, and she's really curious. Am I reading that right?
Yes. Although I was given the moniker Curious George growing up, but Tessa's curiosity is pretty high. There's not a challenge she's going to deny. There's nothing that you're going to throw at her and she's going to be like, oh, I can't tackle this or I can't address this. No, anything you throw her way, like I said, she's going to put her heart and her passion into it. And so, yes. As far as curiosity, there's no on that. So just be prepared, okay? Because any curious deal you have coming up, she's going to tackle and she's going to hold your hand and make you do it. So.
It's very funny. And every compliment he gives you, he also gives that pause about I should be scared.
Well, my brother, we are best friends. We try to do a brother-sister trip. And as we get older, it does get a little harder. Congratulations. He just got engaged to his beautiful fiancée, Savannah. He's probably at the ranch because they're having their wedding at the ranch in February.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
So my brother is very much the oak tree of the family, and I'm very much the wind that rattles that tree as much as I can. And he's been not only an ally for me, but we have a song. Our favorite song is Corpus Christi Bay, and there is a lyric in that. It says, "I went to my brother lived in Houston," and he says, "That part's about you." I said, "Well, I'm not your brother." He goes, "You're kind of like my big brother." And we were good at having fun, had a tab at every bar. And, me and my brother did grow up, and we were all about concerts and going out and doing all the things. And as life settles down just a little bit, I'm just proud of him, and he's creating a family on his own. And I just thank you for calling in, Georgia. You know how much I love you.
Oh, yeah, for sure. No, give Tessa any occupation, any platform, and she's going to run with it. She's definitely going to make Hello Houston a very proud organization to have her on your team. But yeah, no fear of the future. It's all going to be fun. It's going to be one wild ride, and she's really going to make you guys proud. I mean, she's made us incredibly proud, and my admiration for this woman right here is sky high. So,
yeah.
I love her, and the sky.
They seem to just cut him off right
Service
there.
at the ranch must be.
Yeah, I know. It's just too much positive things about you. And they're like, enough already.
Yeah.
George, thank you so much for calling in. I'm going to hold you to everything else you just said. So
You meet him. He's actually the partier. So
Yeah.
we're going to have to take you out on the town. My brother's a good time.
George, thank you for calling. I do want to say one other thing. You're wearing a T on a little chain around your neck, or is it a hammer? And then I realized it could be both.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was Judge Judy for Halloween one time.
Oh, my God.
Isn't that good?
We have to talk.
Have to do that gavel.
Okay, well, it's great to have Tessa with us now. And that's the last time we're going to talk about it like you've just joined. Now, your family, it's done. You're in.
Okay.
You're here. Okay. So coming up on the show today, we're going to talk about, oh, my Lord, we're doing the NFL in Houston for the 50 years. And also about Pro Football Hall of Famers going to join us. It is John McClain coming in to talk about the Texans.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
But you know what you have to wait for? You have to wait to do headlines first. So take us into the headlines.
Let's do it. Let's talk about Caitlyn Jenner. She's weighing in on the increasingly heated debate over transgender athletes in the WNBA. And she's thrown her support behind two former NBA players who, get this, they say they're planning to enter the WNBA league draft. Jenner, a former Olympic gold medalist who transitioned in 2015, publicly backed Enes Kanter-Freedom and Royce White as they challenged the WNBA over its policies surrounding transgender athletes. XX are in, XY are out. It's that simple, Jenner told Fox News, arguing that women's sports need to be protected. She also suggested the former NBA players' moves are exposing what she views as contradictions and the hypocrisy in the league's approach to the issue. The comments come after the WNBA finds itself at the center of a growing debate that began after Indiana Fever guard Sophie Cunningham publicly spoke about her opposition to transgender women in competing in women's sports. What are your thoughts on the WNBA and trans players? You can call or text 713-440-8870. I have some thoughts, Ernie, but I wanted to know if you've read this, seen any of this, and what your opinions would be.
I've been watching some of these players talking about it, and the two that are trying to claim that they actually now are women or feel like they are women, I find that part of the stunt insulting. This is a serious issue, and a lot of folks are, and not even a huge number, a very small group of people are battling with this every day. And to mock it, I don't find entertaining or enjoyable. I will say I think it is definitely a conversation that needs to be had, and I think it's important that we discuss it and understand it. The mockery part of it, I find uncomfortable.
It is a little unsettling. And what bothers me is that, the WNBA is kind of used like as a political dog and pony show. You know what I mean? Like, we should be talking about basketball, women's sports, right? That's what this is. This is a platform to elevate women athletes who have not in the past maybe gotten the same spotlight shown on them. And my position is, I think, I don't think it's an outlier. As someone who competed in sports, I definitely know that I would feel, I would not like someone who maybe from a young age was getting testosterone pumped into their body naturally to compete, because you don't know what the versus is until you actually feel it in that arena of match. But what you have to be careful about is, I guess, rights, right? Discrimination rights, and saying, oh, well, are you okay? So then you agree that men are superior. You agree that women are here. And that's where I think you have to be careful, because it's a delicate dance when it comes to transgender rights, women rights, equality rights. And that's kind of where it's all, I think, gets confusing and convoluted.
I know we've been talking a bit about this behind the scenes. I said, I've got the solution. I don't know how it works yet, but I feel like it's more about ability-based than it is about sex-based. It's kind of like, I think, with wrestling, there are different weight classes, and therefore you're matched up with someone who is on the same level as you, so it's not unfair. And so maybe if it's a way to approach athletics in ability or skill levels matchup as opposed to sex might. The other thing is, people have said, oh, well, have a transgender league. But I think that would highlight the point here, is that there are so few that we're talking about, there wouldn't be enough for a league, because it isn't every other player isn't dealing with this. It's a very small group, but they should be respected and understood and not built against. So I'm just looking at some of the comments that are coming in. Tony wrote, NBA players are a joke. I don't think that's appropriate to say. They need to have mixed gender sports. What do you think about that, if there were mixed gendered sports?
Well, here, like I said, as a woman who already, was competing with other women, that was, I feel like, hard enough. And I've seen some of these stories where perhaps a male has switched over to a certain, like swimming sticks out, right? You switch over and then starts, all of a sudden there is a transgender dominating this field. But I also know there have been situations where females test really high for testosterone in the Olympics and have been disqualified from participating. I just think that dismantling any anti-discrimination protections, like, so that we are no longer treated equally, that is murky to me. That is a territory I do not want to get into. But as an athlete, I also know that I do not want to compete one-on-one with someone who maybe spent the first half of their life as a male, because I think, it would be like peptides are very popular. Just someone getting this extra dose of muscle-making peptide over and over before every game, that would put me as a competitor at an extreme disadvantage. And it would be like, Rocky fighting the Russian. Now, the Russian definitely, didn't win. Rocky ended up winning. But, it's like, it's unfair in that way. But I don't want to be unfair to people who deserve a seat at the table, maybe when talking about anything else, which is why sports are such an outlier.
Well, it's funny you forgot to say spoiler alert when you gave away the Rocky.
Oh, yeah. I know. It's only been 20 years.
So with enhancement drugs then, because there's a whole push now, and I know there's a documentary coming out where they're saying how it's good and athletes should take enhancement drugs. That helps them be the best that they can be. But then that's altering what they're about. And so should someone who's taking enhancement drugs compete against someone who doesn't have access to them or doesn't use them?
Well, I think that some people, mostly people who are sitting on the couch, say, no, do it. Let's see how far you can take this. I'd love to watch that. I'd love to make a sports bet on that and see how many home runs someone can crank over because they're on enhancement drugs. We saw that during the home derby race, and people were like, that was awesome. Yes, there was steroid usage, but that was awesome. But I think for the athlete, there is a short window of time where athletes can achieve something to maybe provide for their families And I know me personally going one-on-one with, if these NBA guys are just declaring, okay, I'm going to be in the WNBA now, you're going to have to go on me. You say, okay, well, that's unfair. Well, that's unfair. Yeah. And
I will say I'm not surprised by Caitlyn Jenner's stance on this because, and if I'm not misrepresenting it, but when Caitlyn Jenner did do a documentary about the accomplishments in the Olympics when they were participating, she often would refer to Bruce Jenner differently than herself and saw that was what Bruce did, not what Caitlyn did. Mm-hmm. And so there's already that separation and understanding that they are different people, and didn't imply that Caitlyn would be able to do what Bruce did.
Right.
Which I thought was a really interesting thing when you watch the documentary. I was fascinated by it, how Caitlyn talked about Bruce Jenner's accomplishments.
It's another life.
Yeah.
It's another, it's not even, she's totally outside of Bruce and who he was. And I mean, Ernie, I have to be honest. I think that it's a slippery slope, but I also know that in Texas, it's a slippery slope, but I also know there are states like Minnesota who have had transgender participation in sports across the board. And you don't really hear a lot about that, but they have had high participation in their athletic programs. So it's like, okay, was that successful? Is that something we should be taking a look at the novice level, at the professional level? I don't know. If I was a woman who had gone to the top league, the professional league, I think I would say, no, this is my boundary. You don't cross it. That is not someone, I don't want to go toe to toe with someone who in their youth had a huge advantage over me hormonally.
A lot of issues to debate there, a lot of thoughts, a lot of different ideas and reactions. Please share them with us, 713-440-8870. We're always interested in what you think. Coming up on Hello Houston, we're going to talk with John McClain, who's covered the NFL in Houston for 50 years and is a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He's going to be here to talk about the Houston Texans' upcoming season. That's next right here on Hello Houston.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
The president's war in the Middle East is pushing up manufacturing costs everywhere, except maybe one specific industry with production roots on the Gulf Coast.
The U.S. producers are really blessed with some of the lowest feedstock costs in the world.
I'm Kai Rizdal. Plastics, next time on Marketplace.
Marketplace is on tonight at 6:30.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from Baylor College of Medicine. With over 125 years of innovation behind it, Baylor has driven progress in health and medicine through research, education, and care that push the frontiers of modern science.
This programming is made possible by Kevin Coolish and Beverly McPhail, supporting media that's free from commercial influence and grounded in journalistic integrity. Because trust in news matters, now more than ever.
Support comes from Miller Outdoor Theater, where performances bring together audiences from across the Houston area. Programming includes cultural celebrations, concerts, and family events. More information is available at milleroutdoortheater.com. Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from attorney mediator Ron Bankston, providing in-person, video conference, and hybrid mediation and arbitration services. More information is available at ronbankston.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manous and Tessa Barrera.
Well, welcome back, everyone. The Houston Texans are entering the upcoming season with high expectations after another busy offseason, from the return of defensive end Jadeveon Clowney to continued development of quarterback C.J. Stroud. There are plenty of storylines to watch as the Texans look to become a real postseason threat. So joining us now is John McClain, who's covered the NFL in Houston for 50 years. He's also a proud member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame and the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. So he's the guy we want to talk about what to expect from the Texans as they head into their second preseason game. John, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you, guys. It's great to be back. And Texans right now, everybody's fired up because they have the best defense in the NFL. They have one of the three best defenses in Houston pro football history, along with the Love You Blue Oilers and the run and shoot Texans of Buddy Ryan in 1993. But they're offensive suspect. They've made a lot of changes in the running game, especially with the offensive line and at running back. And I have confidence that C.J. Stroud's going to play well. He's not going to stink it up the way he did in the playoffs, especially at New England when he had the worst playoff game I've seen in my 50 years. And I blame a lot of that on the offensive play calling by Nick Caley. And so I think he'll bounce back. I think David Montgomery, their new running back, he's a touchdown machine at Detroit, but he also had a great offensive line. They do not have a great offensive line, but they do have a lot of new pieces led by their number one pick center, Keelan Rutledge, who has had a great training camp.
Do teams do a disservice focusing too much on quarterbacks?
That's the only way you can do it in the NFL. It's why they make 50, 60 million a year. It's the toughest position in sports. If you think about it, and in Stroud's case, last year they got a new coordinator, Nick Caley, who came from the Rams. He had been with the Patriots. His system is the quarterback handles everything at the line of scrimmage. Before, the center was calling protections by the offensive line based on the defense. They have Stroud do it. He'd never done it. So if you think about this, the clock is ticking. They break the huddle. He's looking at the line. He's looking at the secondary. They're all trying to confuse him, showing him things that he hasn't seen or thinks he's expected to see. It is difficult. And all of a sudden the ball snapped and they're trying to take your head off. So I think in his second season in this system, he should be better, but Nick Caley should be better. It's his second year as a play caller, and he knows the players better than he did this time last year. Barring injury, I don't see how they won't be better on offense. Their running game was pathetic. It'll be better if they finally have an offensive line they can be proud of instead of embarrassed about.
We are speaking with John McClain, who's covered the NFL in Houston for 50 years and is a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We're talking all about the Houston Texans' upcoming season, and you had boasted about the defense, and the old saying is defense, well, that wins championships. We had an all-time defense. Can you talk about C.J. Stroud and what questions still remain for fans? What are fans asking you, and how do you kind of explain C.J. and his trajectory in this league with the Texans?
They have done him a disservice by not getting him a good running game. Maybe that's not for lack of trying. General Manager Nick Caserio's done a great job at every position except the offensive line, where he's made some really bad decisions. And they changed coaches, usually like everybody changes socks. They've kept Cole Popovich the second year in a row, but they haven't been able to get the job done. And if Stroud doesn't have confidence in the line, if he's looking at pressure, sometimes if you get hit a lot, even if you're not sacked, you start to feel what's not there. Mm-hmm. And the key is accuracy and decision making. And they got a lot on his plate mentally. And I think he has good weapons, but if you can't protect him, he's going to be in trouble. And they did a better job of pass protection last year, but they couldn't run block any better than the three of us. So now they're hoping with first and fourth round draft choices and 2 free agents that are starters, they hope they'll run the ball better, which will take so much pressure off the Stroud.
I'm going to ask you a question that would be considered like a deep cut on an album. I told one of my a longtime Texans fan, I ran into him, I was having a conversation. I said, hey, I'm having John McClain on Monday. I know how much this man loves the Texans. He said, when CJ started, he used to always go to the bench and always had Case Keenum around him, always had him talking him up throughout some of his really bright spots with the team. Do you think the loss of Case Keenum has affected CJ?
Absolutely. I've been talking about that on the radio and TV for a year because you have your offensive coordinator and he calls the plays and he spends a lot of time with the quarterback. You have your quarterback coach and he spends more time with the quarterback than any coach. But in the locker room, you're sitting next to your teammates, and Case Keenum might as well be a coach. They let him get away. He goes to Chicago, the first overall pick, Caleb Williams, coming off his rookie season, he was, Case gets there last year, he's great. Is that a coincidence? Maybe. But I think they made a huge mistake letting Case Keenum get away. When Case's career's over, he'll be a coach unless he wants to be a rich investor with his U of H buddies. But I think he'll coach at U of H, but he could coach for almost any NFL team because he's played with most of them, including 3 times here. But I think that was a bad decision to let him get away because they didn't realize how much he helped him. There's no way you would know. You don't see him. You don't have cameras on him spying on him. But every time he got in the locker room after practice, who's next to him? It's not Draw Johnson, who was fired. It's not Nick Caley. It was Case Keenum.
Like a big brother.
Rookie year.
Just
big brother.
mentoring him.
Great way to put it.
Is there anybody else that's under the radar that you think we should keep an eye on?
Besides offensive coordinator Nick Caley, who is under the radar, under the microscope, because it's an important season for him. Cole Popovich, second-year offensive line coach. Player-wise, they don't have any issues on defense. Now, I'm going to knock on wood because injuries can create issues. Carolina's already lost 2 defensive starters for the season in practice. So, offensively, they need a backup tight end. They drafted a guy, Marlon Klein, in the second round, a reach. Nobody had Marlon going in the second round. He's from Germany, started 1 year at Michigan. He's looked really good. 6'6", 250, catches the ball all over the field. They need a third linebacker, but that's not a big deal. You play 2 most of the time, and they need to keep their first 2 running backs, David Montgomery and Woody Marks, healthy. And I think their second-year wide receivers, Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll, will step up because most players learn what it's like to be a pro as a rookie and make their biggest improvement in the second season. Both those guys are in their second season. So I picked the Texans 13-4. I do not pick them for the Super Bowl. They've never been beyond the divisional round, the second round. If they get beyond the divisional round, maybe I'll pick them next year. I think it's going to be a great regular season.
I hope they're listening.
Yeah, the schedule is tough right off the bat, but I think with this defense starting off against Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Daniel Jones, and Dak Prescott, got to beat the Cowboys. That is a murderer's row, and if they can win 3 of those 4, they'll be on their way to winning, I hope, 13 games so I can brag about my prediction.
There you go. What can you tell us about a fan favorite, Tank Dell? He's a hometown guy. We have rooted for him. I think, the city was behind him when he got injured. What can you tell us about his recovery?
Every time I see Tank, I think about those little bird legs. They're like toothpicks. And how he suffered one of the worst injuries ever. And he had to have multiple surgeries. A lot of people predicted his career's over. And as I've watched his workout videos over the last year, he's out there, fans love him, but he hasn't done anything full speed, no contact, and it's getting late. Mm-hmm. And they could put him on physically unable to perform starting the season because if you're going to keep him on the regular roster, guys got to play. But we haven't been able to see him do anything physically where he could take a hit or even get knocked sideways or backward because they're so worried. But once the doctors clear him, then he'll be able to go full speed. Hopefully it'll be sooner rather than later. The first time he's active, whether it's the first game, second game, they should introduce the offense and have him go out first I don't think he could carry the flag. He's not strong enough. But have him go out first, and the fans will go crazy.
Oh, absolutely. Spiritual leader. Okay, so from stick legs to thick thighs, ruin lives.
Thick legs.
Well, let's talk about some thicker legs. Let's talk about Jadeveon Clowney. Let's talk about how, when they talk about the rich getting richer on defense, what are the thoughts? What are the opinions? What do we love? What are we worried about? Are we worried about anything?
I've been saying for weeks they should sign Clowney as their third defensive end behind Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter, who are the best tandem in the NFL. They did not re-sign Derek Barnett, who I thought did a really good job in reserve the last 2 years. Clowney lives here. His 3 kids are here. I don't know if he's married, but his longtime girlfriend's here. It's just such a natural thing for him to come back. Bill O'Brien made he made more than 2 stupid decisions, but 2 of the worst were trading DeAndre Hopkins to Arizona and Jadeveon Clowney to Seattle. It wasn't because they couldn't play, it's because he just didn't like their personalities and the way they went around their business. Clowney's like a big kid. When he was a rookie, he had microfracture surgery on his knee and 2 more operations. We thought his career was over. Here he is playing in, I think, his 13th year. And with the Cowboys last year, he had 8.5 sacks. He's always been good against the run. Cowboys needed pass rushers. They just signed Von Miller, who's been around 14 years. And when I asked people in Dallas who cover the Cowboys, why did they not try to re-sign Jadeveon Clowney? And they said, well, look at the general manager. That's Jerry Jones. And so I think Clowney's in a great spot. He'll play part-time. I thought it was a tremendous addition.
I want to remind everyone we're talking with John McClain, who covered the NFL in Houston for, how's it been, 50 years?
50 years. My first training camp was 77 with the Oilers going to Nacogdoches.
Well, if you'd like to chat with him about football, give us a call right now, 713-440-8870. Okay, if they gave you the keys to the kingdom, how would you get us to win the Super Bowl?
First of all, the defense is going to be great. They got to be smart. They got to run the ball. Last year they ran the ball, and it on first and second down was like running into a brick wall. I was talking earlier about doing a quarterback a disservice. One of the biggest disservices you can do is put him in second and third and long, because then the defense doesn't worry about the run, and they just get after the quarterback. And even though he wasn't getting sacked, he was having to get rid of the ball too quick. He was not as accurate as he had been. I would, and they've done everything they can do up to this point with their offensive line, but I would mix up the play calling more, throw more on first down, short passes, 4 or 5 yards. That's better than a 2-yard run, and then try to put the defense in a situation where it's on its heels and not its toes coming after Stroud. Keep the defense off balance. I think Nick Caley will be a better play caller. People with the Rams told me he's a really good coach. People with the Patriots, he's a really good coach. But you know what? He didn't call plays. So hopefully he'll be better. And as Stroud goes, so go the Texans. And they started 0-3 last year. I thought, well, at least they're going to get a high draft choice. And then because D'Amico's a great coach and they have a great defensive staff. Matt Burke's a great coordinator. I think he'll be gone after this season as a head coach. And their defensive line coaches, I hate to say it because 2 of them, they're both Longhorns, but they have great defensive line coaches. And offense, they're not as good. But the defense is going to have to dominate. Defense is going to have to score some touchdowns. One of my complaints, Pittsburgh in the playoffs, defense scores 2 touchdowns. So common sense tells you go to New England for the divisional round. The weather's pretty bad. Not awful, but it's bad. So all you want to do is don't turn it over. Let the defense dominate. Let the defense get after Drake May. Maybe they score a couple more touchdowns. If you have to hand it off 3 times and punt, do it because the defense is great, and the defense dominated Drake May. But Stroud was so bad early, and that's the play calling. And he threw his interceptions and pick six were just awful. He lost his confidence. I would have pulled him and put in Davis Mills at halftime, but D'Amico being a former player, I think sometimes he feels decisions through his mindset as a great player like he was, and maybe that'll help Stroud this year that he didn't get pulled. But, man, what an embarrassing situation for him. And I think the offensive coaching needs to be better, and I think it will be better.
Well, Ernie, I can't believe you asked him about what they needed to win and not asked him about what movie he was going to be in next. John McClain, you give us a little rundown of your acting career, things that people might be familiar with, and what are you going to audition for next?
Let's see. I was in
Spring Breakers.
Invincible, Secretariat, I think I'll Make It Rain. My best part was a movie I love called Cook County, which is on Amazon. And Spring Breakers was my last one with James Franco and Selena Gomez and Vanessa Hudgens. I was a judge. I had 2 other offers for parts when I was laid up with a shoulder replacement. One guy said, "Can you be here tomorrow? We need a judge." I said, "Boy, unless I could do it with Zoom, I can't do it." And it was the most famous soap opera ever. It's the only one I've ever heard of. And I couldn't do it. And I had to turn down another one. And we did a remake. I was doing a remake of Footloose. And it was going to be with Dennis Quaid from Houston, who had been in The Rookie with me. And but the Texans played in Washington, and the call first set was 6 a.m. on Monday morning. Oof. I couldn't get away out of Washington on Sunday to get there. And so they took somebody else, which is great because the movie was awful.
So is this something you actively pursue, or is it just when opportunities drop
I
in
need
your
a better
lap?
agent. The producers,
don't we all?
One of the producers who I met was a young guy, Mark Sciardi and Gordon Gray. They did The Rookie. Uh-huh. And I knew the director, John Lee Hancock from Baylor. And I told them, why do y'all take extras in scenes when you could have media helping you promote it? And they're like, well, we never thought about that. I said, well, we're in the Rangers ballpark with Jim Morris making his first appearance from San Angelo, and all of his family's there and his friends and his students. And I said, let me bring media people into that press box scene. And I invited about 40. They got all kind of publicity, and they're, wow, we're going to put you in some more movies. So in The Longest Yard remake, I'm in a press box scene with Adam Schefter, Jay Glazer, the late Brian Burwell, Sam Farmer, Peter King, and we had a blast. They treated us like royalty, and everybody promoted it. And then those producers told me, if you'd lose some weight, you could get in some more of our movies. Well, obviously, I'm not their type. I said, if you need me in any nude scenes, I need a workout coach in 2 years to prepare.
Well, I guess I should ask my question differently. If you were given the keys to the kingdom, how would you win an Oscar? But I guess we'll have to wait to get that
Well,
answer.
I was nominated for supporting.
That category.
You've been great supporting this conversation. John McClain, you've covered the NFL in Houston for 50 years. You're a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame and the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. Thank you so much for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Guys, it's my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Coming up, how the University of Houston will play a role in the future of nuclear energy. That's right. We're taking a hard left. Stay tuned with us as Hello Houston continues.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free and easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Central Market's 31st Annual Hatch Chili Fest, featuring fire-roasted peppers and hatch-marinated meats to hatch cookies and dips, August 5th through the 18th. More at centralmarket.com.
Support comes from Asia Society Texas, presenting an Explore Asia Family Fun Night focused on sushi. The evening includes information on Japanese sushi culture and hands-on activities. Thursday, August 27th, registration at asiasociety.org/Texas.
The Houston Public Media Foundation Board proudly stands with our community in supporting the Resiliency Fund. Their leadership and generosity are helping strengthen the future of trusted local journalism. Thank you to our Foundation Board for investing in Houston Public Media.
Support comes from Baker Ripley, serving Greater Houston for more than 100 years, with programs supporting families, education, financial stability, and workforce. Find program details, volunteer information, and more at bakerripley.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manous and Tessa Barrera.
Welcome back to Hello Houston. If you didn't know, Texas is playing a growing role in the future of nuclear energy as demand for reliable carbon-free power continues to rise. The University of Houston is now part of that effort, joining the Texas Nuclear Alliance to advance research, technology, manufacturing, and workforce development in the nuclear industry. Joining us to talk about what this means for the University of Houston and for the future of nuclear energy in Texas is Professor Ramanan Krishnamoorti, Vice President of Energy and Innovation at the University of Houston. Professor Krishnamoorti, thank you for joining us. Did I get the name okay?
You got it right. Tessa.
Oh, wow. Okay, first day jitters done.
We're supposed to haze you, but we won't.
I appreciate that.
She got us back. She's always ahead in her game, I tell you. I guess a good place to start with this is people hear nuclear power and they already get worried. And they're already concerned. And here we are talking about let's increase this, let's use it, let's make it more practical. But there's still these thoughts in people's mind. No, we don't want, not in our backyard.
NIMBYism is always there with nuclear, and for good reason, right? We've been told that this technology is fail-safe. We can do this right. We can provide carbon-free energy or low-carbon energy. I don't think there is anything called carbon-free energy. So it's low-carbon energy that will be reliable, that will be affordable. So first of all, it is seldom affordable. So that's one of the biggest challenges with nuclear energy is compared to gas, compared to wind, compared to solar, it is not affordable. It's very expensive, but it is reliable. It can stay on and stay on for months on end. And that's one of the best parts about nuclear is once you turn it on, it can stay on.
Once you turn it on, is it still as expensive? Is this all startup money or is it the whole time?
It is continuously expensive, right? Because nuclear energy, as you can very well imagine, is you got to put safety really high up there. And we as a technology provider in terms of nuclear energy have not necessarily bought the communities and the broad public's acceptance of it because we keep having mistakes, right? We keep engineering things and then make mistakes and then have to live with the consequences of it. But I think it's changed. Where it's changed is we moved away from those behemoths that you put up these very large 2, 3, 4 gigawatt nuclear power plants that have all of these multiple layers of safety and security that's put in to what we call a small modular nuclear. That's the future. That's where people are really thinking the future is going to be.
Is that currently practical or is it just theory?
And it is practical. Whether it is commercially practical is where the current sort of big push is. We know how to design it. We've test designed it. We've made it run. It's run very successfully, but we've not necessarily put it in places where people can get the power from it.
We talk a lot about AI, and we talk about how bad it is at first and how we've watched in real time as it gets better and better and better as it moves along. We've seen things reduce in cost as they move along and such. In this particular arena, since you brought up cost and safety, do we see that getting less expensive and safer as we move forward, or is it something that the cost is always there and the safety concern is always there?
So these things are intrinsically safe. That's the beauty about the new design for these small modular nuclear reactors is that they don't have cooling water necessarily associated with it that then goes into a steam turbine and produces power. Instead, you have molten salt that is put into these reactors. And when it starts to fail, the entire reactor shuts down to where essentially nothing can come out of it. And so one of the biggest challenges has always been with water and the water contamination, because once you have water that's extremely hot, and you keep it in pipes, and the pipes leak, that water is out, and that water is contaminated water. And that's what gets into the atmosphere, goes everywhere that you can think of. That's what's going to fundamentally change, right? With these molten salt reactors, the whole idea is when it shuts down, even if you have a runaway, these things they have zero vapor pressure. They cannot vaporize.
I think especially at times when it's summer, gas prices are high, people are hearing about, energy and things being, I guess resources being in short and people kind of in a freak out panic mode. What is the broader goal? Because U of H has joined this alliance, what is the broader goal? Is that I'll let you answer that.
So the broader goal is, let's make energy a commodity that is affordable, reliable, and sustainable. That really is what we wanted. We want it to not be the center of discussion. We want it to be something that we accept, just like, clean water, just like we accept clean air. We want energy to be a commodity that we can rely on. We can go there, turn on the switch, and it's going to show up, and it's not going to bankrupt me.
When you say reliability, I mean, given all the problems that we've had with the Texas grid and things shutting down and things getting super hot. I mean, Houston is already, super hot. We're also an oil and gas city. How does this situation fit itself with the current situation?
So the reality is we need all forms of energy. We need oil and gas. We need wind. We need solar. We need nuclear. Why? Because as we grow economically, when the world grows economically, we consume more energy. Just with this whole AI thing that you were talking about, Ernie, if our projections are right, by 2050, we're going to quadruple the amount of electricity we're going to be using. We're going to be having more and more electric vehicles. We're going to have electric planes. We're looking to go to space. We want space travel to happen. All of these things take energy. And so we need all forms of energy. And the more we can have that is reliable, that runs 24/7, that essentially I don't have to worry if the sun is shining or the wind is blowing or that the Strait of Hormuz is closed. All of those issues, we want to be able to turn around and say, I believe that I can have the electricity and the energy that we need on demand. That's really the game that we're after. And this is what the university thinks that we should be really pushing forward with. Educate the students about the choices that you make with energy, that we need all forms of energy. We need to make sure that the broader public buys into the fact that this energy that they get does not come with health impacts, does not have issues where we worry about a climate that's going to change, that's going to result in perhaps hotter days and drier days. Those are the kinds of things that we're trying to really address. And we think, we're going to have all forms of energy. And the sooner we accept that, let's identify the challenges associated with each of these energy forms and mitigate against it. So the thing with nuclear is the safety issue, right? Yeah. And so we're going to have to mitigate. And this can be done through engineering design. You make intrinsically safe reactors. Or, like you spoke to Professor Selva earlier, we can do nuclear fusion, right? What the sun does on the sun, we can bring back to the earth and do it in a controlled way. What the stars and the suns do, provide that energy for all their planets, all the celestial beings, we can get that on the earth, do it safely, do it reliably, do it with the most abundant molecule that's there, hydrogen. Right? So
quickly, though, is the elephant in the room the oil and gas industry? Are they embracing this or are they concerned about this?
I think so. Anybody who's serious about energy says we need all forms of energy. Well, even to the extent, we need coal to operate in parts of the world, right? Where there is no other form of energy that is readily accessible, as long as we can mitigate the issues associated with pollution that might come from coal. That's really the elephant in the room is we need a whole lot more energy and we need to get it inexpensively. If it's going to put a hole in your wallet, we're not going to do it.
We need more energy. Everyone needs more energy, Ernie. We need more energy.
You don't need more energy.
But if it's so abundantly available, I mean, I take a little energy. I wonder about young kids coming up, engineering. What path? Is there a specialized program, or what type of engineer is already working on, the nuclear alliance, the type of things that would be in place for us?
We normally think of nuclear engineers, but I think we need much broader range of engineers, right? Mm-hmm. You need the civil engineers because they're the ones who are going to construct these. You're going to mechanical engineers because they're all dealing with all the pumps and compressors that go with it. You need chemical engineers because they need to make the fuel, right? They need to be able to process the fuel and then think about what happens at the end of life. One of the biggest challenges that we've got in this country today is what do we do with spent nuclear fuel?
Mm-hmm. You're going to have to come back and
answer that question. We're going to have to come back and talk about that one, okay? But
Professor Krishnamoorti is the Vice President of Energy and Innovation at the University of Houston. Thank you so much for talking with us about this. We just cracked the surface, but we didn't crack the reactor open. That's good. That brings us to the end of the show and the end of your first day, Tessa.
I'm just glad I said Professor Krishnamoorti's name right, okay? That's the best thing that happened all day.
Well, tomorrow we're going to be back with even more best things because we're going to be back with another full 2-hour program. So don't go anywhere. Come back with us 11 a.m. tomorrow right here on Hello Houston. Thank you for watching.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menivar, Laura Walker, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, Jayla Rhodes, Mark DeClaudio, Tom Carter, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from the Audie International School, where students from PK3 to 12th grade grow in curiosity and courage, preparing them to make their mark on the world. The future's so bright at Audie.